Whilst I'm yet to talk about the Neon Batmans, as I like to call them, and I'm not sure if I'll talk about the Nolan trilogy or any of the other things like that, I did want to talk about this one because it does something that we haven't seen for a while, and it does a few things really well. There are a few issues with it, but any film has them. Cinema sins exist for a reason. So let's talk about The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves, who also wrote the screenplay with Peter Craig. It stars Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Andy Serkis, Jeffrey Wright, Paul Dano, and a barely recognisable Colin Farrell. So yeah, I enjoyed this. I'd heard good things about it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to see it, but it was recently released on home platforms, so I could make my own decision. I set aside a good 3 hours, and that is one thing I do want to talk about. The duration of films over time has seemed to get longer. Now, yes, way back when there were these long epics, so films have not always just been 90 minutes and all of a sudden now they're 2-3 hours long. That isn't just a recent development, but it's more prominent. I think the capacity for an audience to sit with it and spend time on a film is much greater than it was perhaps in certain areas. And the fact that when it's on streaming, you can pause to go to the toilet, you can pause to make yourself a drink, you can replenish your snacks, whatever. So on home viewing, it is definitely a lot easier. But whether a film needs to be that long is really what's often in question. If your story can be told in 90 minutes, tell it in 90 minutes. Don't give us an extra hour of filler. I think this was right at just under 3 hours. The amount of information, the amount of setup we got, the amount of payoff we got, the general pacing, the plot of the film, it worked in this time frame. It was perfectly fine. I didn't feel it overstayed its welcome. There are films I've watched that have been 90 minutes that felt like they've been 3 days. This wasn't like that at all. I don't think it would have been served being longer. I think it was exactly the right amount of time. The performances were great. I enjoyed everyone. I know a lot of people were dubious of Robert Pattinson. I was as well. I will hold my hand up to that. The only thing I'd really seen him in was being Cedric Diggory. I'd not really seen the Twilight films, but obviously Twilight has a reputation. Not going to say too much more. But I've noticed in Kristen Stewart's career that there is a good actor under that. And I think both of them, when it came to the Twilight films, it's a paycheck. Robert Pattinson has appeared in a lot of things over the years. Still got to watch The Lighthouse. I definitely will. But I've not seen him in anything else since, and it works for me. He is a moodier version of the character I think that we've seen for a while, in both formats. But it almost feels a lot like modern takes of Batman, where Batman is who he is, and Bruce Wayne is the cover. He's not comfortable being Bruce Wayne yet, and technically that's a part of Batman for a long time, but other variations that we've seen, he's comfortable in the Bruce Wayne mode, if you will. It still may not be his preferred thing in other variations of the character, but he's a lot more willing to go to the meetings and be the guy that everyone expects Bruce Wayne to be. There are some great choices that are made in this film, such as when he enters the room with Alfred, played wonderfully by Andy Serkis. I'll get onto that in a moment. And he's squinting at the light. This is a guy who's spent more of his time out in the dark, fighting crime, than he has being just a normal guy. And the acting, directing, and everything just pays off so well for that. So yeah, Andy Serkis, I love the guy ever since The Lord of the Rings, of course, and I love to see him in roles where he's not putting on a weird voice or doing, a physical thing that's then going to be CGI, basically. He really did a good crack at Alfred. It's one of the variations where he's got a past. It doesn't actually delve too much into it, which I love. There's a lot of stuff that's just inference, but this is a guy who probably could handle himself, but obviously, he's a bit older, a bit out of practice, which is why he gets sidelined. Jeffrey Wright as Gordon. I, again, love Jeffrey Wright in almost everything. I think I said that during the What If series. He's got such a wonderful tone. I think I said the word mellifluous, and I would still say it here. Even when he's delivering lines of shock, and he's disgusted by what's been going on, he's still got that wonderful calmness to his tone. And I love that. I love that. He does so well in this role. There are a few lines that are a bit weird said in this breathy tone, but we'll let it go. Paul Dano was surprising. Again, not someone I've seen much of. I think the only thing I've seen before really was Swiss Army Man, which I loved his performance in, but this guy is so different. The moment when he's captured and he's kind of pulling this, dare I say, orgasmic expression, he's got this thrill of being caught. And it takes a good actor to put this nuance, to put this weird uncomfortability in their performance at the same time as clearly being someone who's enjoying it as well. They've got to convey to us that this is weird, but they're enjoying it. It's very hard to get that balance sometimes. Actors can normally do one or the other in a lot of cases, but Dano does so well. Even when he's under the mask, his physical presence, the performance there, is great. This is a guy who I respected a little before, like I say for Swiss Army Man. Now, I really want to see tons more of this guy. I think one of the weak links would have been Zoe Kravitz. She didn't really feel that integral to the plot. That's possibly one of the things I would have got rid of. You could have got to those points that were made through another character entirely. Her version of Catwoman was different. No one's ever going to be as bad as Halle Berry, so there's a gimme there, but she's not. I don't know, Anne Hathaway I think is most people's least favourite at this point. She's definitely not Michelle Pfeiffer, at least, let's put it that way. That's a very high bar. But I can't go any further without talking about Colin Farrell. This is a guy who we've all seen in various bits and pieces, but no one had really thought of him for something like this. And it's a shame we didn't. We could have had performances like this way earlier. This is a man at the top of his game. Any of the earlier performances that have been a bit shaky were all leading to this point, and I am so glad he got this role. You cannot tell it's him most of the time when he's under the makeup. His eyes are usually his giveaway, and there are moments in this when that does hold true, but even then, for the most part, this could be anyone. His absolute joy when he thinks he's got one over on him, on the Batman, and his larger-than-life persona is perfect for an actor like this who can do that. We've all seen the Daredevil film, and he was probably one of the better performances. It still wasn't great. Comparing the two, this was a much better performance, but the seeds were there. He revels in playing bad guys, and he does it so well. My attention was held every time he was on screen. But the film itself was an interesting look at not quite year one, more like a year two Batman. He's been doing it for a bit, he's got the rhythm down, but he's leaning more into the Bat persona and letting real life slide. So all of a sudden, we now start to get the supervillain types appearing. And the Riddler's the first big one that he's got to face in this version of the events. And he's leading him on this merry chase to uncover something that's become a running theme, unfortunately, I think, in modern Batman, where Thomas Wayne is less than stellar. Earlier iterations, he was a really nice guy, doctor in most circumstances, and just really wanted Gotham to be a better place and was willing to do whatever, as long as it was on the right side of things. Over time, we've seen that they've added nuance to Thomas Wayne's character. Some of it I've liked, but I think now I've seen it in almost every modern Batman version that I'm getting sick of it. Okay, Thomas Wayne was willing to bend the rules, if not outright break them. Fine. We get it. People aren't perfect. Move on. New idea for the character, please. But that said, this plot wouldn't happen without it, so I let it slide. And a lot of people were sort of saying, yeah, there's a great amount of detective work that he does. But I did see one dissenting remark saying, it's not that good. A lot of the stuff was filled in for him. He didn't pick up on the incorrect Spanish being actually vital. But remember, he's in his early days. He's becoming the world's greatest detective. That's the important thing. He's not there yet. He's still a work in progress. whilst many, visual adaptations of Batman haven't leaned on the detective side, at least this was giving us the beginnings of that. And he's always got a team around him in most iterations. He has a network of people he can butt heads with and, brainstorm ideas, whether that be Alfred, whether that be Gordon, whether that be part of the extended Bat family if that's coming down the line. So I think give him a pass on this. There are moments that, yes, he's really helped along and moments that he misses obvious things, but anything that you've developed a skill for, did you immediately get it 100%? No. We're seeing a Batman in progress. And I really hope there's more down the line. I know we're getting the Penguin series, but I don't think that's going to feature much of the Bat himself. But I want to see more of this world. This very Fincher-inspired world. I think Fincher and Batman is a mix that works so well, and I'm surprised we haven't seen it like this before. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the Batman. Definitely worthwhile, definitely doesn't overextend its welcome, and some really good performers and performances in this, and it's a world I really want to see more of. So come on, bring it on, Matt Reeves. Next one, now. Get on it. So until next time, thank you very much for watching, and as always, take care.